Seeing as how today is Halloween, I thought it was a perfect opportunity to talk about disguises and deception in your D&D games. So happy Halloween! I hope you have a wonderful time this evening. I'm actually going to be going out. Obviously, I'm not dressed up. I'm just wearing my regular clothes for the moment, but I will be dressing up for Halloween and going out trick-or-treating with my son, and I promise to share some pictures from that madness. You can check them out on my Twitter, so come find me on Twitter at Gregory Festo and follow along there, and we will definitely have some good stuff to show you from the fun this evening. Now let's get right into it today. Oh no, first I do want to say thank you for the newest subscriber, Leth and Gavin. I appreciate you joining along for this silly ride that we're on, and I hope you enjoyed today's topic. We're going to talk about deception, costumes, and how to disguise yourself, and some of the different ways that this can be loads of fun in your D&D game. So here we go, DnDaily vlog number 285. Let's get right into it. Looking at some of the options that a character has for creating an altered appearance of themselves, you have some really mundane things. For instance, there is the simple disguise kit. Or you can literally just grab things like, oh, we're infiltrating this cult and they all wear these spooky robes, and so we're gonna steal some of those robes. Or the classic, I'm gonna clobber this city guard on the back of his head, knock him out, and steal his armor and tabard and so forth, right? So we've all seen and done similar things like that in lots of games, I'm sure. That's kind of the most basic, simple way to handle this in the game. Of course, it helps to have some skill. There are certain backgrounds, there are certain, classes that have some ability with this, and there are certain feats that you can take that will also augment your abilities. Now, that's the basic level, but what about when you start bringing magic into the mix? That's when things get really interesting. And so one of the cool things everybody probably is familiar with, especially if you're like me and you watch Critical Role, you know all about disguise self. At the very beginning of campaign 2, this was something that Ford, Caleb, and actually some of the others were doing quite often. They were using the spell disguise self to alter their appearance. Now, one of the things that I want to bring to everyone's attention about this is that all that does is make you look like that person. It doesn't make you sound like them, and it doesn't give you their knowledge and experience. So even if you disguise yourself as, say, the captain of the guard, you better have an idea of what that person sounds like and what he or she may have done in their life if you're gonna fool everyone else that you are in fact the captain of the guard. There are some cool ways you can do that. One is of course observation and so forth. Another way is you can read the person's mind and so forth. And so there are ways that this can come into your game. And so DMs, yeah, I feel for you. I have decided, because one of our characters has this ability, I have decided to absolutely 100% roll with it and let this have lots of play in our game, because he also has a feat, he has abilities that he is able to, if he spends a minute observing someone and listening to them, he can perfectly mimic that sound, right? And so why not? If he can match the person's voice and match their image, I thought this is exactly how a very skilled bard should be played. And I'm happy to contribute to the fun the player is having using these skills and abilities, where he can not only make himself appear as a person, but he can also sound as that person as well. I think it's super fun. There's always going to be a die roll, of course, in there. Not always. I shouldn't say always. There may be some die rolls in there as well if he's trying to do something particularly deceptive or convincing or conniving or persuasive or threatening. He may have to make a die roll along with that, but just the disguise and the voice sometimes is going to be enough to convince some people that this is the real deal, which is super cool. So that's one great way this can be done, right? But then there's a couple of others that maybe aren't as obvious. Of course, there are some other fun ways that this can be achieved. These are some simple ones. There are some illusionary magics that will work, but possibly my favorite, now this is kind of crazy because it takes really high level spell casting, but possibly my favorite is True Polymorph. True Polymorph is an amazingly crazy spell. True Polymorph lets you turn almost anything into almost anything else. You can turn an object into a creature into another creature, or a creature into an object. It's kind of terrifying, and when you think about it, I mean, this is some real deal power. But it can also be done in a very funny way. This can have all kinds of madhouse fun possibilities because look, you can turn one person into another person. That's kind of crazy when you think about it. It means you can essentially take like a husband and wife and swap them, a king and a queen and swap them, or you could take your, your friend and turn them into that, again, captain of the guard or whatnot. There are some limitations regarding their challenge ratings and all this kind of thing, but there's all kinds of wild possibilities. Those are just some of the silly and fun ways that you can basically tap into the spirit of this holiday in your Dungeons & Dragons games. You can create costumes, you can change your appearance, you can manipulate the way you and your friends look, all in the sake of fun and hopefully overcoming that next obstacle. And these are just a few of the myriad of ways that we could think about using Dungeons & Dragons and the skills and spells and so forth within Dungeons & Dragons for all kinds of spooky and silly fun in changing our appearances, altering ourselves or our companions, and pretending that we are not what we are. And isn't that what Dungeons & Dragons or other role-playing games are all about anyway? And isn't that what this fun holiday, Halloween, is all about as well? So whether you're just going out for Halloween or whether you're playing a great RPG game, keep that in mind, keep it lighthearted, and tell me your greatest story and your great ideas about how to use deception and costumes and trickery in your Dungeons & Dragons games. I'll see you tomorrow. Keep rolling 20s, and remember, it's your game, play your way.